Welcome to another episode of GKTV. The subject of today's discussion is whether the May 18th parliamentary meeting is lawful. In my opinion, I think the answer is no, and I will explain it shortly. We start with the fundamental principle that this is a nation run on the principles of democracy, which means we elect our leaders and the people who elect the leaders are the citizens. Because the 34 million people of this country cannot sit in parliament and discuss the issues that affect the nation, we elect 222 MPs who represent us in parliament. One of them is then elected as a leader. He approaches the king, gets the king's endorsement, which is a constitutional formality, after which he goes before His Majesty the King and presents the king with a list of cabinet ministers, which is then again endorsed. These people form the cabinet and they run the government. The government is the servant of parliament. They have to come back and report to parliament of all the work that they do, and they have to get permission of parliament. Now in this case, what happened was the Mohidan government took over the leadership of the government on the 1st of March. But ever since the 1st of March, the strength of the Mohidan government and the number of MPs who support him have not been tested. Quite fortuitously, the COVID-19 pandemic intervened, and since then, he has had no need to test the strength of the number of MPs behind him. But in reality, although the pandemic appeared to be a boon to Prime Minister Mohidan, it also became a danger. It became a danger because it limited the things that he could do to consolidate his power, and he also had to expend monies in the treasury in order to overcome the problems of the pandemic. Now that he has spent this money, he has to go back to Parliament and to get its ratification and endorsement so that it will be approved by Parliament. Now what's been happening is the earlier meeting proclaimed by the king has been adjourned at the request of the Prime Minister, who is considered to be the leader of the house. Don't confuse that with the Speaker of Parliament, who's the master of the house. It is a speaker who has overall control of the House of Representatives, and we now have to study why we think the May 18th convening and meeting of Parliament is legal or otherwise. The sources of power in any democracy are first, the rule of law, which is a concept, a doctrine that has developed over hundreds upon hundreds of years. Then, when it involves Malaysia, the federal constitution, beyond federal constitution, there are what are known as constitutional and parliamentary conventions which have been in existence for hundreds of years. And it has been said that because of their consistency, their ancient authority, tradition and history, they have, although not recognized as law, at least the same consistency, authority and power and recognition as any ordinary rule of law. Beyond those conventions, Parliament has made a number of rules by which it regulates itself. Parliament is the master of its own procedure. It is Parliament that decides how it wants to run its affairs, and that is called the standing orders of the Dewan Rakyat, the House of Representatives. If the subordinate rules contradict the principles in the federal constitution or the rules of law, then those subordinate rules cannot take effect. They fail. They fall. Let's dive straight into what happens when Parliament reconvenes after an adjournment. The last sitting of Parliament was on the 19th of December, and therefore under Article 55, Parliament cannot remain in recess for a period in excess of 6 months. And therefore the last date for the convening of the next session would be the 18th of June. Already the earlier date set down and proclaimed by His Majesty the King, the 8th of March, has been adjourned to the 18th of May. Now, Order 14 is the order that spells out how the proceedings of Parliament are to be conducted when Parliament reconvenes again. It starts with these words, and the words are, let me read them to you. Unless the House otherwise directs, the business of each sitting shall be transacted in the following order. And then there is a series of transactions, 18 in number, and one follows the other. The order cannot be changed unless the House directs it. Now, for the House to direct, the Prime Minister has to come into Parliament and ask to change the order by asking for a ruling. That requires a majority. If he has the majority, fine. If he doesn't have the majority, he has to follow the procedure set out in Order 14 of the Standing Orders. What is the sequence that is required by this order? Very simple. First, the Speaker of the House enters the House of Representatives. Then, divine invocation are made, prayers are recited, after which, if there has been a new member in Parliament, he is sworn in. If there is no new member in Parliament, then one has to hear the message from His Majesty the King. His Majesty may appear in person or His Majesty may send a representatives. The whole point is a message is given to Parliament from His Majesty. In Britain, it's called the Queen's Speech. The significance of the Queen's Speech, and by parallel argument, the significance of His Majesty the King's speech in this country's Parliament is that is the speech in which the agenda of the government, its future plans and its future actions are spelled out, and His Majesty speaks about those things. And when His Majesty has finished his speech after a vote of thanks, what happens is those matters set forth in the agenda are debated. Now, the words that are in Order 14 are very important, and this is the word that Order 14 uses, which is instructive and tells us why I think the 18th May proceedings must have a particular sequence. And the words are these: unless the House otherwise directs, the business of each sitting shall be transacted in the following order. Two words: the business and transacted. What does that mean? First, the business of the House must have 18 characters, and they must occur in a particular order. First, as I said, the Speaker comes in, there is a prayer, His Majesty's speech, then there is a vote of thanks, then that plan that is spoken about must be approved by Parliament. If the plan is not approved, then the government has no choice but to resign. Assuming that plan is carried, then we come to the next problem. The government has been spending the money in the treasury in order to combat the problems created by the pandemic. Having spent that money or having committed certain sums of money for certain purposes, the government has to get the permission of Parliament to proceed further. If the government cannot get the approval of Parliament on its supply bills and finance bills, then the government is obliged to resign. There are many examples of it. We now have this situation, a very odd situation it is, where we are told that there's going to be a speech and then the House is going to adjourn to another date. This cannot be, because there are things after the speech. There is an order that has to be fulfilled. Let me read these things out to you. After the message of His Majesty the King, the Speaker will make various announcements. There are petitions to consider. Then there is the Minister's question time. Then the questions to Ministers for oral answers. Then there are motions on matters of urgent public importance. The statements by ministers, tributes, obituary speeches, personal explanations, presentation of government bills, motions relating to order of business to be moved by ministers, public business, the motion for the introduction of non-governmental bills and other items of business in the order they appear in the order paper for that day. So it is for the Speaker of Parliament to determine what is the order for the day and what is in the agenda. And therefore, in the House of Parliament, it is not the Prime Minister who enjoys preeminence, but it is the Speaker. The Speaker determines the agenda. He determines the points of order. He interprets the standing orders. His decisions are final. His words must be heard in silence. He may endorse the votes. He may determine what petition should come first and what next. He may suspend the sitting of Parliament. He has almost limitless powers, and there in that house the Prime Minister enjoys no preeminence because he is the servant of Parliament. And therefore, to come now to say that the king's speech amounts to business of the house, which is transacted. And you know what the meaning of the word transacted is? To give and to take. What? Discussions, debates, opinions. That's what transacted means. What is the meaning of the word business of the house? Anything that is in the interest of the people is the business of the house. Now, to have His Majesty speak and then to say that that amounts to a meeting or a session would be to take a position in law that is unacceptable. It's against the conventions. It's against the rule of law. And here it is. It is to silence the voice of the people in the very house of the people. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is my respectful view that if the meeting that is convened on the 18th of May stops after His Majesty's speech, then it is not a meeting. It is not business under Order 14. Nothing is transacted. The sequence of the order is not followed. Then it is not a session. Then it cannot validly be, in my respectful view, be considered a meeting. Then there is no convening of Parliament in my view, and there's no meeting. We're going round and round. For these reasons, I am of the view that the meeting of the May the 18th is not a meeting. It is liable to be challenged and we'll have to wait for a decision. The way to overcome this problem, what's the point of speaking about these problems and saying this cannot be done, that cannot be done, that cannot be done, unless a solution is granted. And what is the solution? Since the Speaker is in control of the House and the last date under which Article 55 6-month period ends is the 18th of June, under Order 9 Sub-Rule 2A, the minimum number of days a notice must be given for the next meeting would be 28. So if something goes wrong on the 18th of May, we are cutting it too thin. There is no time unless the Speaker exercises special powers and shortens the duration of the notice from 28 days. Even then, there is not enough time to prepare all the course papers and all the reports for the study of members of Parliament. It will be cutting things too close. The right thing for the Speaker to do is to take control of the proceedings and put the motions for debate, those motions that appear on the order paper, and proceed to transact the business of Parliament under Order 14. There's no other way of resolving it. If we delay this any further, the entire nation risks making the proceedings on the 18th of May contrary to Order 14, contrary to the Constitution, contrary to constitutional and parliamentary conventions, and contrary to the rule of law. So I hope to have answered your question. Thank you for being with us. Have a good day. Please like, subscribe and comment below, and have a good day. Thank you.